Welcome to the Ultimate Advisors Resource Podcast. I'm Jordan Pence. I have Madelyn Nelson here, our marketing director. Thank you for joining me, Madelyn.
Of course, my pleasure.
Today we've got I think, interesting topic. We just did a lunch and learn with a partner of ours, Richard Chrisman. He's the asset-based long-term care specialist at Securion. And I wanted to do a podcast about this. I would have loved for him to come on, but
I know.
compliance
It's hard
and
for him.
yeah, it's hard for sometimes the carrier reps to go on something like this, and because of compliance,
There's
obviously.
no compliance for us though, so we're good.
No compliance, we can do whatever we want. But anyways, I'm Jordan Pence, president of Advisors Resource Company. Advisors Resource Company, we help advisors like you write more life insurance annuities and I guess asset-based long-term care now.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to do like a brief, I guess somewhat brief introduction to some of the things that we talked about in our lunch and learn. I thought it was really well received, and hopefully I can do close to as good a job as Richard. I thought he did a great job.
Excellent. So good luck.
So Madelyn, let's kick it off with the first question. What do we got?
All right, sure. So just to kind of lay a foundation for everyone, can you kind of explain the difference between asset-based long-term care and then traditional long-term care?
All right. Asset-based has gotten lumped into, or I guess asset-based is now what everybody's calling hybrid, or I guess even before then they called it linked benefit. But really the difference here is the asset-based long-term care is on a life insurance chassis. And so what I mean by that is it's sort of combined the long-term care portion of it as a rider on a guaranteed life insurance policy. Now, the traditional long-term care is almost more like health insurance. And so that's the main difference, right? The asset-based long-term care hybrid linked benefit is going to have a death benefit associated with it. It's going to have a surrender value associated with it.
Okay.
And then the third thing that it has that traditional long-term care used to have is guaranteed premiums. Mm-hmm. So nowadays you cannot, that I know of, and maybe there's some company I'm unaware of, but generally you cannot buy a traditional or standalone long-term care that has guaranteed premiums. And what we see a lot of, I get a ton of calls about this, especially from fee-only advisors, people who don't write life insurance. They call us and say, hey, my client got this letter in the mail from their fill in the blank long-term care company, and it's asking them if they want to pay more in premiums or if they want to reduce their benefits or so forth. And I'd say when you take a step back, the primary difference between traditional, as we'll call it, traditional long-term care or just pure long-term care insurance, and the hybrids or the asset-based long-term care that we have available today is the guarantee of premiums and the ability to pay that up in a short period of time with a single premium, with a 10 pay, you pay a lifetime in some cases. And in addition to that, I think what makes it particularly more attractive, the asset-based, is that you have the opportunity to get all or more of your money back if you don't need the coverage.
Oh, okay.
So that, I think, makes it more like, and this is kind of what we're talking about today, more about almost repositioning assets than paying for insurance, if that makes sense.
I think that does make sense. So I don't know if we're going to cover this later. I know we want to get more into ABLTC, but is there an instance where LTC makes sense? Because it just sounds like ABLTC has a lot more benefits. Is that true?
The only place where maybe traditional long-term care might make sense.
Did I stump you with that one? I know that's off script.
I mean, it is a little off script, but the only place where it might fit is if you're extremely sensitive to premiums, meaning you want to pay the lowest premium possible.
sensitive to premiums. That's a good way to put it. Don't have enough money to pay for that.
So you're extremely sensitive to premiums, and there might be a business reason, like if you want 100% deduction in like a C corp or something like that. But I think most people will be much better off with an asset-based long-term care solution as opposed to a traditional long-term care solution
Okay.
if they can afford it.
Right, if they can afford it.
But
So
if you can't afford it, why are you buying long-term care anyways?
true.
You might want to worry about some other things first.
Yes, that makes sense. Okay, well, thanks for laying that down. So I guess to get into it a little deeper, what type of you kinda already said this, what type of clients are typically a best fit? So you just said
I mean,
most people.
most people. I mean, you're talking about middle America to the mass affluent to the ultra wealthy. I think if you look at it from the tax perspective, many people will make the argument like, well, my clients are so wealthy, they can self insure. They could, they really could. But what you have to remember is this is just simply a repositioning of assets, and the long term care benefits when they come out of one of these asset based products or a traditional product come out tax free.
Mm,
So, what that means to them is number one, in the simplest terms, I'm trading $100,000, let's say $100,000 for $600,000 or $700,000 to be used over maybe a 4 to 6 year period for long term care.
and why wouldn't you wanna do that?
Why wouldn't you? And I would argue the ultra high net worth people, the people that are really wealthy, well, why wouldn't I just do that? If I've got it, I mean, they probably have an extra 100,000 laying around all over the place. Why not? Why not have that to where, they wouldn't be scrimping on where they stay or where they go, but why even make it a thought if you've got the money to pay for it? So
Right, it's just kind of where your financial advisor should step in and set up that strategy.
yeah, or just propose it. But yeah, so I guess it spans the gamut. I mean, obviously, somebody who can't afford to retire shouldn't be buying one of these because they need to worry about funding their retirement first. But again, the mass affluent, anybody entering retirement that's worth maybe 2 million plus, you could potentially go down to 1 million. People really aren't going to start thinking about this before probably like age 55. So yeah, I mean, like
You're not
I'm in my 30s, late 30s,
alright.
and it's not really on my radar, but I can see the benefit. There are some companies that I can purchase a policy at my age, and I've actually looked at it, and it does look appealing. So, you could go way down. It's just that's not going to be this person, a person in their 30s hot button issue. They're not really going to think
Other
about it.
priorities.
Yeah, they've got other priorities to take care of. Like I got to worry about sending 3 kids to college and all other types of
Are you
crap.
gonna fund that with life insurance policies?
Oh, that's a good point. Um, maybe.
Maybe. Well, that'll be an episode for the future then.
Yeah, the grandparents did a 529. I'm not doing a 529, which I guess we should talk
What's
about
a
that.
529? I need to
All
write this
right,
down
all
for the
right.
next episode. I don't know what that means.
We're putting a pin in this one. We'll do that one next
Let's move
time.
on.
Okay.
We're getting off topic. So,
Okay, go.
you had kind of already mentioned some of the tax advantages. So, were there any other things you wanted to touch on as far as the tax advantages of ABLTC?
Okay. This is what I'm talking about. This is the biggest benefit, and that is the fact that if somebody needs long-term care, and let's just say they're living off of 200,000 in retirement, right? They've got 200,000 coming in, husband, wife, and all of a sudden one of them needs long-term care, and they're going to need to take out, let's just say, an extra $80,000 from their retirement accounts. If most of their assets are non-qualified assets and or IRAs, like traditional taxable IRAs, if they begin to take more out to pay for that care, it's just going to simply increase the taxes that they're paying. It's going to also increase not only the taxes that they're paying, also the tax bracket that they end up in which in turn affects their effective tax rate. And the problem with all of that, which kind of goes back to IRMAA, which is not an old lady. It's how how Medicare is taxed. And I wish I should have looked up what IRMAA stands for.
Oh, I think I did. I put it in here? No, I don't think I did. Sorry. That's embarrassing.
It is, but that's okay. IRMAA, it has to do with how much premium you're going to pay for Medicare when you're in retirement, and it's based on your income. And so if your income shoots up by 80,000 because you need to pay for care, then that's going to actually put a much bigger strain on your retirement than if you had set aside 150,000 into one of these asset-based policies that's going to come out not taxable.
Mhm.
And that is one of the biggest ideas behind it is, and again, you don't have to insure 100% of it, but let's just take the strain off of what you're going to do in the future by doing this with the policy. So that's the tax considerations to consider, but there's a few other things that you should consider when paying for it, and we can talk about that now, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, I think let's do it.
So the other consideration to make is how much in taxes you are
I'm Googling IRMAA really quick.
okay. I was like, what are you? The other thing to take into consideration is some of these premiums are deductible. So when we talk about taxes with long-term care, we want to take into consideration the fact that you could get a deduction for the long-term care portion of the asset-based long-term care. So on like a 10 pay of 10,000 a year, maybe 5,000, 6,000 of that premium will be potentially tax deductible, especially if you are a business owner. If you have a C Corp, it's unlimited deductions. If you're a pass-through entity, there's a limit based on your age. And that's another big benefit. So a couple things to take in consideration. So IRMAA stands for income related monthly adjusted amounts.
The more you know.
So yes, I should have known that, but
You knew that. It just slipped your mind.
it
You knew
just
that.
yeah. Okay, so moving on from there,
So we done with tax talk? Because
I mean,
there's a lot.
I think we hit it, but the main thing to think about is that if a family, if a husband wife needs care in retirement, they are going to need to pull out more and more out of their qualified plan or their non-qualified plans, which if it's non-qualified, that means selling off stock that maybe have highly appreciated, selling off, bonds potentially, just creating taxable income,
Just stuff you don't want to touch.
things you don't want to create taxable income out of, not to mention spending down your IRA assets. So if you take out more out of your IRAs, then you're paying more in taxes. And what the asset-based long-term care can do, or really any long-term care, I mean, any long-term care policy for the most part is going to come out tax-free. You're alleviating that tax burden when you have to take out the extra income for retirement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Who wouldn't want to do that?
Exactly. And then not to mention that, if you look at the internal rate of return on the LTC benefit, the guaranteed internal rate of return, if you need long-term care, is at least 7%. And you're getting 7-8% on the asset-based long-term care, should you need it for long-term care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah, I think it's a
So
huge benefit.
so back to IRMAA a little bit.
Yes.
I know we also have a presentation we were gonna reference.
Yes, we
Richard had
have
sent us a really good one. So
a case study that we'll put in the download that maybe illustrates this a little bit better, because I'm not it's easier to see when you look at the numbers, I think,
yeah,
and
for sure.
we'll put that in as a download.
Okay. So in what ways can ABLTC strategies help reduce adjusted gross income and by extension IRMAA surcharges?
This is exactly what I'm talking about here. So the example that I would use again is this 200,000. If I need 200,000 of income and I need an extra 80,000 for a long-term care facility, if I don't have any sort of long-term care insurance, then my income's going to have to go up to 280,000, 300,000, somewhere around there, so I can get the money out, pay the taxes, and then spend it on the long-term care. On the flip side of that, if I have the asset-based long-term care, my income stays at the 200,000. I'm getting 80,000 tax-free from the policy.
Sneaky.
Straightforward.
Tricky. Yep. Very nice. So, how does asset-based long-term care fit into a broader retirement income planning?
I think this is a great question. And I think this is almost just as important as the tax question because, and this is especially, I think, important for like middle America, right? Because most middle America, or even maybe mass affluence, which, somewhere between 2 to 5 million in
Yeah,
net
what is
worth.
middle America to you? Because I really don't know.
Middle America, I think of middle America is
Are you
like,
middle America?
yes,
Okay.
I guess. I don't know. I think of middle America like, husband, wife, they're entering retirement. They have maybe 2 million of assets saved. They're gonna have a modest retirement. Maybe they live on 100,000 a year for the next 20 years,
Okay.
and they have Social Security coming in, so they might hit up to 150.
So well off, but not like rich.
Yeah, they're not buying a Ferrari.
All
So
right. Yeah. Corvette at best.
yeah, Corvette. I bet Corvette might be pushing it for these guys, but
Okay.
um, anyways, so um I totally okay. The
All
the
right. Sorry.
retirement
Sorry.
thing. So yeah.
Yes.
So the benefit here is husband wife. They get into retirement and somebody needs care. If somebody needs care and you're living off 100,000 a year, well, that means you're pulling out an extra 50, 60, $70,000, and that could potentially ruin the retirement for the surviving spouse. And so they've got to make this decision in their head as to, okay, am I gonna skimp out on Claudia's LTC and put her in the crappiest house that I can find so that I can
That is
eat?
his wife.
Yeah, Claudia's my wife. So am I gonna put my wife into some
Absolutely not.
roach motel, and
That's horrible.
well, so that I can survive it because I got to preserve the money that I'm gonna live on the rest of my life?
Yeah.
Or do I have this long-term care coverage that will pay for it?
Hmm.
And the benefit here is I put 50, I put $100,000. That's going to augment what I need to pay for this. And if she doesn't ever use it, okay, I've got a death benefit. I'll at least get the money back. If she does need it, okay, great. We've got this coverage. I turned 100,000 into 700,000, and I don't have to worry about where I'm going to put her. I will put her at wherever's appropriate.
Hmm.
And that's how I think it can have a huge impact into retirement income planning and so forth. And if you actually run the models with like the software and stuff like that, I think you'll see and include that module into there. It it has a huge impact if you have the long-term care versus not have long-term care.
You're saying people can start this as late or as early as 55 and, in that time.
I mean, you can get a policy at I I think the earliest issue age like 30, 35.
Okay. And then, but like, what's it like if you wait till you're later? Like, what's kind of too late for someone to get started with something like this?
That's a good question. The upper limit I would say would be somewhere between 70 and 75.
Really? Like, that's pretty late still.
It is very late.
Yeah.
Now if you're much older than that, you might want to consider an annuity option.
Okay.
Or if you're already sick, you might consider an annuity option. Like we have options that if it's an annuity or if it's a oh my gosh, if you're already having issues
Mm.
and you put it into an annuity, you put money into these long-term care annuities, the benefits still come out tax-free, even if you get more out than what your basis is. So almost, I mean, it's never too late to plan, but you certainly get a lot of benefit by planning sooner rather than later.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
But there's a myriad of options when it comes to asset base, and it spans the gamut from more life insurance based options to annuity options.
And
Um,
because this is more life insurance based, it matters how healthy you are, and that's where you're going to get placed, and all that still matters.
to an extent, I mean, that's the underwriting is definitely more simplified when it comes to asset based long term care on a life insurance chassis. And what I mean by that is it's a questionnaire, and then they might make you do an interview, depending on your age and what they find. They may order medical records. They also may not.
Okay.
So it's a little bit more simple than like a fully blown underwritten life insurance policy, which can be somewhat time consuming and, they're going to look a little bit deeper. This is a little more, I don't want to use the word guaranteed issue, but simplified issue is the best way to put it.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. Thank you. So I don't know if there's a great answer for this one, but are there any misconceptions that clients or even advisors have about ABLTC?
My clients are going to self-insure. I think I hear that all the time. Like, my clients are rich enough to self-insure. Yeah, they might be. But do they really want to spend $500,000, $1
That just
million?
means paying for it themselves. Like they don't need it
Yeah,
because they've got the money.
yeah, they've got
That's
the
kind
money
of
to
a
pay
stupid
for.
reason. It's like, why not grow your money for
I think
nothing?
it's somewhat short-sighted. I mean, I understand what they're saying. They don't want to, um, they're like, well, they don't need it. They can do better themselves. But the point of it is, why would you not insure it if you had the money? You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
why not make the experience, and that's what Richard talked a lot about, why not have the experience be a good one and know exactly what you're going to do if this happens, because you've bought the coverage, where you're going to come to get the money, where's the money going to come from? How are you going to find a facility? Which all of these insurance companies that do these policies, they'll have a service that'll help you locate a facility to send the insured to.
Mhm.
I mean, it basically makes it simple. I mean, it
Right.
simplifies it and allows you to customize the benefit, and
Mhm.
you'll be able to use it however you want. I mean,
Mhm.
it makes it a lot, just a better experience, I think, is
Right.
the
I mean,
bottom
to
line.
pre-plan rather than wait last minute. This is a tragedy just happened. We need money now, and then everything's a mess, and it just
Exactly.
messes up your own future. So,
Exactly. And I brought this up in one of our lunch and learns, and I think this is an important thing for everybody who not only considers themselves a financial advisor, but also, well, a planner, whatever you want to call them, but also anybody who's just a straight up insurance agent selling insurance out there. And there was this lawsuit in Canada, and these are going to be loose details. So these aren't going to be the exact details, but basically the gist of it was, um, agent sold somebody a life insurance policy, and it did not have accelerated benefit riders on it, which accelerated benefit riders, for those who don't know, and maybe Maddie, is you can accelerate the death benefit if you need, if you have a critical illness, which is like heart attack, cancer, stroke, or if you have chronic illness, which is like long-term care.
so you're talking about when you buy it, you're already ill, so you put that rider on.
No. I'm talking about after you buy it. If you become ill, then you can accelerate the death benefit in those
Oh,
circumstances.
got it. Okay.
Okay, so this agent sold this client a policy that did not have those benefits.
Mm.
Family or client gets sick. Family ends up suing the advisor because he did not offer a policy that had those benefits, even though he advertised that he had those types of policies.
Okay. So just the fact that they didn't offer it, how is that sue worthy?
That's what they sued him for. So the point of all of this is to say, okay, if you're a financial advisor and you have an insurance license and you didn't offer this to your clients, you're potentially opening yourself up. And
Hmm.
if your client goes through an LTC event and you hadn't offered it, what's the family going to say? Like, why didn't you offer this type of coverage to them? Richard uses a personal story that I thought was really good, where it was an advisor who's, or I'm sorry, the advisor's client's daughter, which is 5 removed or whatever, came back to visit with the daughter after the mother had passed away. Long story short, she said, "Why did you not offer her long-term care insurance? We spent $500,000 of my money on this care, and you didn't offer it." Well, the advisor pulls out of the file, "Well, look, I talked to her about this long-term care on this date, and she said that she didn't want it."
Declined and yeah.
And then the conversation went from, "Why didn't you do this?" to, "I can't believe my mother didn't buy this."
Mm-hmm.
And so the point of all of that is, you're potentially opening yourself up if you are not offering these solutions.
Mm.
We actually have a nice letter. Maybe we should include it in the
Yeah.
download as well. We have a nice letter that you can present to your client to say, look, I'm offering you this solution. You either declined or accepted to move forward on it. And you can use that to paper your file. That way, at least you have something on file to say that, hey, they either declined or didn't decide to do it.
Don't get sued. Come talk to us.
I don't know that anybody's actually going to sue, but
No.
I mean, it's
But I mean,
some
that's a story. The moral of the story is that people wish they had it.
exactly.
All right. So just a couple more questions here. I think you kind of already talked about it, but I guess how else can you position this so that way a client can really see the value? I mean, that story would be one good way, but anything else?
I think it's two things. It's a conversation. Like, how do you start the conversation? I think is the question, and really, it's look, what is your plan? Should you or your spouse need long term care? Need long term care, right? Like, if you guys end up in a nursing home, what is your plan? And then just listen. It's almost exactly what Christopher
Yeah,
said.
that's what I was just thinking about our last podcast with Christopher Holtby about estate planning. So this would really go hand in hand with your estate planning, your future when, the next generation passes on. It's, what does that look like?
Same thing. So, what would you like that to look like? And they'll say something. Oh, I hadn't thought about it. Well, have you considered how you're going to pay for it? Where you would want to stay? What you would want to do? Who do you want to make the decisions? And talk through all those. And then it comes down to, okay, you don't know how to pay for it. Well, why don't we prepay for it now?
Right.
Set aside $100,000 if you don't need it. When you die, your family will get 150. If you do need it, that 100,000 turns into 700,000.
So it's like it's a money back guarantee in a way. It's like you can't really go wrong. So
Exactly.
all right. Well, do you have any other final thoughts? I think you already gave a great example earlier with guy being sued. So
Yeah, I think that's a
got
good
that.
a good thing to consider, and just talk to your clients about this. I think it's important, and I think too many advice. If I hear another, oh, they're gonna self-insure again, I'm gonna. I mean, I'm not gonna crash out,
I knew you were
as
gonna
the
say
kids
that.
say.
Crash out. Yeah.
But I think I think it's just short-sighted to say, yeah, they'll self-insure and not even talk to them about it, because I think you need to have those conversations. And I think if people really think about it, they don't want their estate going to some nursing home rather than their kids.
Well, people don't want to think about it, and so it's
No.
important for an advisor to bring that to their attention and just be responsible.
Yeah, and if you haven't listened to the last podcast with Christopher, I think that would be a good one. And you can weave this conversation right into the legacy conversation that Christopher talked about. I think it's a perfect
Yeah,
sort of segue.
it is. And Christopher gave a lot of great examples about what specific questions you should be asking to get the answers that you need to know out of them. Not in a
Exactly.
sneaky way, but it's just like, don't ask such technical questions because people don't know how to respond. You need to kind of act, how do they feel about it? So that way you can figure out the strategy behind what they want.
Exactly. And I think if you go to somebody and say, do you think you need long-term care insurance? They're going to say
Oh
no.
no, like that sounds
Yeah.
dumb. I'm done. Yeah.
Yeah, and probably you'll get the same reaction that a lot of people say, and they're just take me out to the backyard and shoot me. And anyways, but I think you need to have a conversation more around the feelings,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
what you want the experience to be and that sort of thing. So, anyways,
Yeah. Anyways, I think that sums it up. Thank you, Jordan, for answering all my questions, and I hope everyone enjoyed.
thanks, Madeline.
All
Thanks,
right.
everybody.
Bye.